Let's get started with today's story. My name's Danny. I'm 36, a software engineer in San Francisco. I had this life, you know? I thought it was fine. Steady job, nice apartment, a wife I loved. Her name's Stacy. We'd been married for about 3 years, and things weren't perfect, but we were doing all right. No major issues, just your typical married life, or so I thought. Things started to shift when Stacy decided to go on a big fitness journey, and I'm talking really getting into it. She used to dabble in yoga, but then, out of nowhere, she decided to take it to the next level. She hired a personal trainer, this guy named Ryan, who worked at this high-end gym downtown. She'd always been into aesthetics, but this felt like it was something different. She became obsessed with her body, with posting progress pictures on Instagram, with counting every calorie. At first, I didn't think too much of it. I supported her. I thought, hey, this is a healthy hobby. It's great she's getting back in shape. I'd even help out more around the house so she could go to her sessions and not feel stressed. I didn't mind it. It seemed like something positive. But slowly, things started to feel off. Stacy wasn't just working out to feel better anymore. She was working out to be seen. She was spending hours at the gym, spending more time with Ryan than with me. Her posts on social media became more about her transformation than about us. Every caption was about self-love and new beginnings, and I started noticing more comments from people I didn't recognize, praising her like she was some kind of fitness guru. I remember one night I suggested we do something together. We hadn't had a real date night in a while, and I figured a quiet evening in might help us reconnect. She brushed it off like it was an inconvenience. I can't, Danny. I have to train in the morning. I need to keep up with my routine. That hit me. She wasn't even making time for us anymore. It wasn't just that she was focused on herself. It was like she'd forgotten we were a team. She was becoming distant. Then came the morning. It started like any other. I was half asleep, nursing my coffee before heading to work, while Stacy was downing her usual kale spinach disaster smoothie. She was dressed in her workout gear, scrolling through her phone like her life depended on it. Out of nowhere, she says, "I deserve more in life." I looked up, still groggy. Huh? More of what? She put her smoothie down and stared at me, all serious. "This marriage is holding me back, Danny. I'm filing for divorce." I swear I thought it was a joke. I even laughed, thinking she was messing with me. But she wasn't laughing. Her face was stone cold. "I've outgrown this," she said, like I was some outdated piece of furniture she was ready to toss. "You wouldn't understand." I sat there, completely blindsided. My wife, the woman I'd shared years of my life with, just dropped this on me like it was no big deal. I tried to process her words, but all I could feel was this mix of shock and anger boiling in my chest. "What do you mean you've outgrown this?" "Outgrown what?" She sighed like I was a child asking too many questions. "Danny, I've been working on myself, trying to be the best version of me, and frankly, this life doesn't match my potential anymore. I want more than this house, this routine, this you." Her words hit me. She didn't even sugarcoat it. I was part of the problem in her eyes. The life we'd built together wasn't good enough for her anymore. She grabbed her gym bag and walked out the door without so much as a goodbye. I sat there staring at the half-empty glass of green sludge she left behind, wondering what the hell just happened. That day at work was a blur. I went through the motions, but my mind was stuck on Stacy. Was this real? Was she actually leaving me? We'd had arguments before, sure, but divorce? It felt so sudden, so calculated. And the way she said it, like she'd been rehearsing this speech for weeks, made it clear she'd already made up her mind. The next few days were strange. Stacy and I barely spoke. She'd come home late, always claiming she was at the gym, but I had a feeling she was out with Ryan. It wasn't just about fitness anymore. It was like she was trying to rewrite herself into someone new, and I wasn't part of that version of her. I'll never forget the day I came home early from work and overheard her on the phone. She was talking to someone, probably Ryan, and she said, "I'm just so glad I finally took control. I'm done with him. He just doesn't get it." I froze. This wasn't just about working out anymore. It was about her actively distancing herself from me, emotionally and physically. She was checking out, and I wasn't even on the list of things that mattered to her anymore. A week later, she told me she started the divorce process. She didn't even give me a chance to talk things through. There was no negotiation, no attempt to work things out. It was like she was done with me and was ready to start a new chapter with Ryan. I found out they were spending a lot of time together, and the worst part? She wasn't hiding it. She was posting photos on social media, and I saw comments from people congratulating her on her glow-up. It felt like she was showing off how quickly she could move on, like our entire marriage meant nothing. Ryan wasn't just her trainer anymore. He was her new world, and I was a memory. I knew what was happening, but it didn't make it easier. I kept thinking about how everything went wrong. Was I too caught up in my own work? Was I not paying enough attention to her needs? I tried to talk to her about it, tried to ask her what went wrong, but she just shut me down every time. Eventually, she served me the papers, and the reality hit. This was it. My wife, the woman I'd loved and built a life with, was gone. She'd found a new life, a new identity, and someone new to share it with. Meanwhile, I was still living in the house with her because legally I couldn't kick her out. I was left to pick up the pieces, trying to figure out how the hell I ended up here. The more I learned about Ryan, though, the more furious I got. He wasn't just some personal trainer. This guy had a history. Mark, my lawyer, who honestly deserves a trophy for his work, did some digging and found that Ryan had done this before. Twice, in fact. He had a pattern. Find a married woman, boost her ego, encourage her to leave her husband, and then, once she was emotionally wrecked and the money dried up, he'd vanish like a flash of lightning. Ryan was a professional homewrecker. It wasn't love, it was a hustle. He made these women feel invincible, then bailed once they couldn't keep up with the fantasy. And Stacy, she was the perfect target. She thrived on attention, validation, and being adored. Ryan had her wrapped around his finger and she didn't even realize it. Ryan wasn't just eyeing Stacy's wallet. He was eyeing mine too. Stacy wanted half of everything, my savings, spousal support, and even the house. She thought she could waltz into court, play the victim, and snag a golden ticket to her new life with Ryan. Little did she know, Mark had all the receipts, and I wasn't about to let her walk all over me. The next morning, Stacy was in the kitchen making one of her green smoothies, the kind she always flaunted on her Instagram. But today, the usual smugness was gone. Ryan's been busy with his new clients, she said, her voice trailing off, fishing for a response. I kept my silence. I knew she wanted me to bite, to ask about Ryan, her personal trainer turned more. But I wasn't giving her the satisfaction. A week later, the storm hit. Mark, my lawyer, called with news. Stacy had filed some last-minute paperwork trying to claim more assets. She wanted emotional compensation for the stress I had apparently caused her during our marriage. Yes, Stacy was now blaming me for her midlife crisis. Mark, with his unmatched expertise, was ready. He had a countersuit prepared, showing how Stacy had been draining our accounts and manipulating the situation for her own benefit. He even had screenshots of her Instagram posts, where she flaunted her new beginnings with Ryan, clearly living her best life at my expense. And then, just like that, Ryan vanished. He stopped showing up for their gym sessions, ignored her calls, and even blocked her on social media. Stacy spiraled. I could hear her pacing the apartment, calling him repeatedly. "Ryan, call me back. We need to talk," she whispered in a voice that was more desperate than I'd ever heard. Eventually, one of her friends spilled the tea. Ryan had moved on to another client, someone younger and less entangled in a messy divorce. Stacy was devastated. Her Instagram, once filled with flashy photos and motivational quotes, went dark. She even stopped going to the gym. One evening, Stacy tried to talk. "Danny," she started, standing in the doorway of the living room, her voice fragile. "We need to reevaluate everything. This divorce, it's been hard on both of us." I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. "What are you getting at, Stacy?" She sighed, clearly trying to summon some sympathy. "I think maybe we rushed into all this. I mean, we had good times, didn't we?" I almost laughed. "You filed for divorce, Stacy. You told me I was holding you back, remember? Now that Ryan's gone, you're having second thoughts?" She tried playing the victim, saying how lonely she was and how much she had sacrificed. But I wasn't buying it. "You made your bed, Stacy. Now lie in it." Her fantasy world was crumbling, and I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma was doing all the work. The day of the court hearing finally arrived. Stacy walked in, her usual confident stride replaced by hesitant steps. Her lawyer, a sleek city attorney, looked just as unsure. The once flashy blazer was gone, replaced by a simple cardigan. She must have known things weren't going to go her way. On my side, Mark was ready, carrying a binder thick with evidence. I wasn't nervous. This was about ensuring that the truth came out. Stacy's lawyer started, painting her as the long-suffering wife emotionally drained by my supposed lack of support. They tried to spin the narrative that my reluctance to embrace her fitness journey, her affair with Ryan, was a form of neglect. Mark let them talk, then calmly began dismantling their argument. He showed proof that I had supported Stacy, going above and beyond during her so-called fitness journey. He presented texts where I offered to join her in fitness classes, adjusted my work schedule, and even took on extra household chores. Then Mark dropped the bombshell, screenshots of Stacy ridiculing me to her friends, calling me useless baggage, while bragging about Ryan being her ticket to a new life. The highlight? Stacy's personal journal entry detailing her plan to leave me, take as much as she could, and build a new life with Ryan. The judge's face said it all. Pure disbelief. "Mrs. Sullivan," the judge addressed Stacy, "your claims of emotional distress are unfounded. The evidence shows no indication of emotional neglect. In fact, it proves Mr. Sullivan's unwavering support." Then came the financial breakdown. Mark presented bank statements showing how Stacy had siphoned thousands of dollars from our joint account to fund her luxurious lifestyle. The judge's tone grew colder. "Mrs. Sullivan, you withdrew over $15,000 from your joint accounts, spending it on luxury items, fine dining, and personal indulgences. Such behavior is irresponsible and a clear violation of your marital obligations." Stacy's lawyer tried to argue, but the judge wasn't having it. "The house will remain Mr. Sullivan's property," the judge declared. "Additionally, Mrs. Sullivan is ordered to reimburse Mr. Sullivan $15,000 for the unauthorized use of marital funds." Stacy's face went pale. Her once unshakable confidence had evaporated. The court adjourned. Stacy slumped in her chair, defeated. Mark patted my shoulder as we walked out. "We did it," he said with a smile. A few days later, Stacy packed her things and left the apartment. Watching her drive away was strangely satisfying. She had burned her bridges, and now she was left with the consequences. 2 weeks after the court ruling, Stacy showed up at my apartment, unannounced. When I opened the door, she looked like a shadow of her former self, her once polished appearance replaced by messy hair and tired eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Danny?" she said softly, her voice cracking. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "What do you want, Stacy?" She hesitated, wringing her hands. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I made mistakes. Big ones. I let Ryan manipulate me, and I got caught up in this fantasy. I ruined everything. Her words sounded rehearsed, but the desperation in her eyes was real. She wasn't here out of genuine remorse. She was here because she had nowhere else to turn. "I don't know what you expect me to say," I replied, keeping my tone calm but firm. "You made your choices. You chose Ryan, and you chose to try and take everything from me. Now you're dealing with the fallout." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Can we at least be civil? Maybe start over?" "I have nothing, Danny. I'm lost." I stared at her for a moment, feeling nothing but resolve. "Stacy, I gave you everything. My support, my trust, my love, and you threw it all away. You don't get to come back now and ask for a second chance. That's not how this works." She broke down, sobbing on my porch. After a moment, I stepped back inside and closed the door, leaving her outside with her regrets. Since that day, I've moved on. The apartment feels peaceful now, no longer filled with tension and resentment. As for Stacy, I've heard through the grapevine that she's still struggling to get back on her feet. She's burned bridges, lost friends, and is now facing the reality of her own choices. Sometimes karma doesn't just knock on the door, it kicks it down. For Stacy, it left her with nothing but the consequences of her actions. And for me, It finally brought the closure I needed. Thank you for watching.